So today what we're going to be doing is taking an in-depth look at The Crucible, a play by Arthur Miller. I'm going to start out with the setting. So set in 1692 in a Puritan community in Salem, Massachusetts. I'll give you a little background on these Puritan beliefs. The Puritans, it's a very strict religion. They follow Christian beliefs to the T. And they believe that good and evil are tangible things. They're very real and they walk kind of amongst us. They believe that. So if someone were to say that they saw the devil walking around Salem, uh, they would be very impressionable to that and they could believe that. And they'd be quite afraid of it actually because they're very afraid of the reality of that evil in Salem. And you'll see kind of how that takes its toll later in the play. But the town of Salem is considered a very good, godly place. But it's said in the play that outside of Salem, the woods are a little more evil, a little more demonic, that God doesn't exactly have his reign there. It's kind of the devil's stomping grounds, if you will. And that kind of leads us to the beginning of the play, which is what I'll begin now. So the play begins with a sick Betty. And Betty's a young child. She's Reverend Parris's daughter. Reverend Parris is a leader in the town. He's kind of runs the church. But Betty's just sleeping. She's laying in her bed sleeping, and they can't wake her up. And they don't know what's wrong with her. They can't really figure it out. So they got some people that come in and check on her, and they say, I have no idea what's up with her. This is weird. What's going on? And it's also revealed to us that around Salem, some of the other girls are acting a little strange. We don't really know what's up with them, but they're showing similar symptoms to Betty. So the parents are like, okay, what's up with our kids? What is going on? So these parents get together and they kind of put together their stories of what they had seen their children doing the night before. And they come to this idea that, hey, I think our children are witched. And they think that because a few parents had eyewitness accounts of the girls out in the woods in Salem and they were dancing. And dancing in Puritan belief is a big no-no. You don't dance. That's borderline satanic. And they were with a house slave of Reverend Parris's named Tituba. And they kind of put together, hey, I think they were practicing witchcraft out there, and I think our kids are witched, and Tituba is a witch. So they call in a reverend whose name is Reverend Hale, and he's kind of a self-proclaimed witch expert, if you will. And they bring him in to check on these girls who are allegedly witched. So the girls, if they had been witched, would be suffering, and if they hadn't confessed, if they were lying about it, and everyone just thought they were witches, they'd be subject to jail, death, hangings. And Abigail, one of the girls, also a daughter of Reverend Parris, who doesn't really want to have to deal with these consequences, has this idea. And it's, hey, what if we confess to witchcraft so that we're cleansed? Because if you confess to it, you're cleansed, you're saved. So what if we confess to this witchcraft and kind of throw these others under the bus for being witches, and that'll take the attention off us, and maybe we'll be all right. So, excuse me, Abigail, upon the entrance of this Reverend Hale, says, "Yeah, we were dancing in the woods. We were practicing witchcraft. That one right there, Tituba, she's a witch. Betty, she's witched out of her mind. These other girls, they're all possessed." So, at first, these other girls are like, what the hell is she saying? Like, this is not good. That's not what happened. But then they kind of pick up on what she's trying to do, and she's just trying to get them out of trouble. And these other girls begin to play along with it, and they say, yeah, we were out there. We were practicing witchcraft, and we saw this person with the devil and this person with the devil. And what they're doing is they're throwing those people under the bus, trying to get the attention off them. So, and they succeed in that. They get the attention off them. The attention then shifts to these people, and they're mostly older ladies in Salem, that these girls say allegedly were with the devil. So it kind of shifts, the attention kind of shifts to them, and the investigation shifts towards those older ladies. And so, in Act 2, we see that they go after these ladies, and they question him, and they're like, "Hey, we heard you were with the devil." And these people are just completely caught off guard. Like, we were with the devil? Well, we're going to church every Sunday. We don't know how you could come up with that. And they're told, hey, well, these girls said it about you guys. And apparently everyone in Salem is just extremely impressionable because everyone seems to believe it. Well, for the most part. Because what you'll see is when these ladies are brought into court, a kind of somewhat of a petition is signed. And it's got 91 signatures of people in the town of Salem saying, hey, I know that these people are good, virtuous people. I know they weren't with the devil. And it's got 91 signatures saying that. But the trial's already begun, and this judge, Judge Danforth, says, all right, we're going to go on with this trial. I acknowledge that you've brought this to me, but we got to go on with this because here we've got a bunch of girls saying that these older ladies, Goody Proctor, Goody Nurse are their names, Elizabeth Proctor is allegedly seen with the devil. They're saying that they were practicing witchcraft. So the judge says we got to go on with this trial. And this is where it starts getting good. So everyone is kind of arguing in the town. A lot of people in the town are saying, hey, these girls are making this shit up. This is not actually happening. We know these people. They're good people. They weren't with the devil. You can't send them to hang for just a made-up story that these girls have. And the judge is listening to what they're saying, but he's also saying, how do we know these girls are making it up? And what we see is that the judge can't find any evidence that the girls are making it up. So we have a farmer, John Proctor, who kind of has some evidence, and he's going to bring it up to the judge. And his evidence is that Abigail had told him firsthand that they were lying, and she did. And kind of something I forgot to talk about is that John Proctor, who's married to an Elizabeth Proctor, and Abigail had this little affair going on while John was married to Elizabeth. And he goes to Abigail right when all this is happening, in the very beginning when they're first being accused of witchcraft, and Abby tells him, no, we weren't witched, we were just running around in the woods, we were dancing, but we were in no way with the devil. And so Proctor knows that, and he takes that to this court, and he tells this to Judge Danforth. And Judge Danforth is kind of questioning him and probing at him and cross-examining him. And Proctor, in an attempt to gain some kind of credibility and show some honesty so that the court will believe him, tells the court exactly everything that happened. He tells them about his affair with Abigail, and that's all in an attempt to gain some credibility so that the court believes that what he's telling them about Abigail is true and that she is really just making this stuff up. So the judge says, okay, well, would your wife be able to attest to this, Elizabeth? And Proctor says, yes, of course. My wife doesn't really lie at all, if ever. So they bring in Elizabeth, and Elizabeth, they say, has your husband committed adultery with Abigail? And Elizabeth, trying to save her husband's good name, says, no, he didn't. And this is kind of a big step for Elizabeth because she's a very honest person. And to lie about this shows that she really cared about her husband because she was able to lie trying to save his name. But unfortunately, she kind of screwed John over. And so now the court doesn't believe John and thinks John was lying about everything he's just said. And John's kind of screwed now. He's pretty much going to jail. Another girl who tries to bring some evidence to the court is Mary Warren, who's one of the girls, actually. And she says they're all making it up because she just does not want to have anything to do with it. She says they're all making it up. They're all liars. They're trying to frame these people to get the attention off them. And what happens here is that all the girls begin to frame Mary Warren for being a witch. They all turn against her. And Mary Warren starts saying things, and the girls start reciting it, trying to act like they're witched by Mary. And what this does is it causes Judge Danforth to think, hey, Mary is really witching these girls. Maybe Mary's the witch, and was making and is trying to throw these girls under the bus when Mary's really the one that was a witch. And So what happens at the end of Act 3 is the girl or Abigail claims like, "Oh my God, I see a bird up here in the near the roof of the church or near the ceiling of the church, and that the bird is Mary Warren and that it's coming for the girls." And all the girls sprint out of the church in this big scene, causing this big commotion. And the judge Danforth, he believes it. He's like, these girls are sincerely scared. Mary Warren is practicing witchcraft and is coming after these girls. So, in the end of Act 3, Reverend Hale basically tells Judge Danforth, because Judge Danforth has pretty much made up his mind that Abigail and her friends are telling the truth about these older people, and that Abigail and them are innocent, but that these older ladies, Goody Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor, or not Goody Proctor, yeah, Goody Proctor, um, Goody Nurse, that they are all witches. So the girls kind of get off in Judge Danforth's eyes, and Reverend Hale comes up to Judge Danforth and says, "Hey man, I think John Proctor's right. I think these girls are making all this up." But it's to no avail because the judge doesn't really listen to Hale. So Act 4 begins, and John Proctor's in jail, Elizabeth Proctor's in jail. All the young girls are set free. They accomplished what they wanted to, and all the older women, Goody Proctor, Goody Nurse, they are all in jail, and it's the day that they're to be hung. And Reverend Hale comes and pulls Proctor aside out of jail and says, "You have got to confess." Which he didn't actually commit witchcraft, but Reverend Hale says, if you can confess to witchcraft, they're going to let you off. So he goes to confess, and he begins to, and Judge Danforth says, okay, you're confessing, and he wants him to sign on a sheet of paper saying, "Hey, I committed witchcraft." And he begins to do it, and he just can't, because he just can't lie. He's a very Puritan guy, and lying, he believes that God damns all liars to hell, and he just can't do it. And what they were going to do with this signature was they were going to put it up on the church wall. Everyone was going to see that he had confessed, and they wanted to make these other people confess, because they want these people to confess to witchcraft, even though they didn't do it. So he begins to write it, and he can't. And the main reason is because he can confess for himself, saying that he did it, but he just cannot get himself to confess for his other friends that are being accused of witchcraft. And I think that speaks volumes about Proctor's character, that he wouldn't throw those other people under the bus and that they let them do what they wanted to do, which is not lie. So they're carted off, and they're hung. So that's kind of the end of the play, is them being carted off. So that's the basic plot of the story. Now I'm going to go into some characters. John Proctor is definitely a main character, so I'll talk about him for a little bit. John Proctor starts out, it's initially revealed that he had his affair with Abigail, and we start thinking maybe John Proctor's not such a good guy. He cheated on his wife. He's been frolicking off with Abigail. Maybe he's not that great of a person. But throughout the play, we see him evolve and develop, and he really shows some character in that he won't lie. He won't falsely confess to witchcraft. He won't throw his friends under the bus. So he really shows some character and some honesty. Elizabeth Proctor, his wife, she's one that really develops throughout the play. She starts out kind of cold towards John, very kind of mean towards him, because he knows that John had gone and hooked up with Abigail, and she's not thrilled about that. So then, near the end of the play, though, when they're both in jail, Elizabeth thinks, hey, maybe I was really cold to John, and that's why he went and cheated on me. And she kind of has this revelation that, like, I love my husband, and I need to go and try to save him. So she goes and tries to make Proctor falsely confess to witchcraft so that he can save himself. And of course, Proctor won't have it because Proctor just wants to tell the truth and doesn't want to lie because that's just him. Mary Warren. And talking about Mary Warren, I think the main reason I choose to bring her up in this is that I think she symbolizes how easily people are to be persuaded or shifted to one way or the other. Because Mary Warren starts out, everyone thinks she's witched, and she's with these girls, and Abigail starts saying, "Oh yeah, we're witches," and Mary Warren plays along with it, but then she just doesn't want anything to do with it. So she says she goes to the court and she tells Judge Danforth that all the girls are lying, and then when all the girls start pretending that Mary is witching them, right after that happens, then all of a sudden Mary breaks down and is like, okay, it's true, we were witches. So Mary just kind of shows how really weak and feeble the human mind is in trying to deal with adversity. She kind of symbolizes a little bit of weakness and insecurity in the play. Talk about a few quotes. One from, or both of these quotes are from the end of the play. The last one, or the first one I'll talk about, is actually the very last line of the play, and it's Elizabeth Proctor says it as her husband is being carted off to be hung. She says, "He has his goodness now. God forbid I take it from him." And what we see in that is that Elizabeth Proctor is finally realizing, my husband's happy. This is what I wanted all along. Even though he's going to die, he's happy, and that makes me happy. So when she says, "God forbid I take it from him," that's saying, why should I make him confess just to save his own life when he's happy doing what he's doing right now? He wants to do this. He's doing this based upon his own values, and that makes her really happy that she can know, hey, I let my husband be happy and do what he wanted to do. The other quote comes from Proctor when he's trying to basically sign a paper saying that him and all his friends, yes, they were practicing witchcraft, which would be false, but he wanted to save all their lives, or rather, Reverend Hale and his wife wanted John Proctor to save all of their lives. So he says, "I speak my own sins. I cannot judge another. I have no tongue for it." And what this is saying is, I can tell you what I did. I can lie on the behalf of myself, but I can't do it for the others. I cannot lie for them. So he can break down enough to do it for himself, but he just cannot get past that barrier, that mental barrier he set for himself of lying for others. He thinks that that's just terrible. And that quote really shows some character of Proctor. I've talked a lot about that, the character of John Proctor, and how in the end of the play it really shows how strong-willed he is. I'll talk about a few themes to wrap it up. One is the psychological effects of hysteria. When everybody in the town starts going crazy, we see that people can't make up their mind. People at first think that the children are witched, and then they think that Goody Proctor, Goody Nurse are witched, and then there's just a bunch of confusion. And we see that in this confusion, their minds are very weak, and they will go with whatever the crowd is going with. And that's kind of a characteristic hysteria has, is causing people not to act themselves and rather to act with what the group is thinking, what the group is doing. The other is reputation. We see many times in the play when people speak trying to save their reputation or trying to save the reputation of others, and this comes up again and again and again. Abigail and the girls, they are the only ones that really don't care about their reputation. They'll say, "Hey, yeah, we were practicing witchcraft," because they just don't want the consequences. But other than them, all the others really care about their reputation and want it to stay as unmarred as can be in Salem. The other is selfishness, and that's something that's really personified by all the young girls who are originally believed to be witched. And the selfishness in it is that they basically throw all these older people, Goody Proctor, Goody Nurse, they throw them under the bus, just completely say, hey, they're witches. They want to get rid of all of the accusations that are on them, and they put it all on these older people in Salem. And that's just an incredibly selfish thing for them to do, because they know good and well that these people they're accusing of witchcraft are probably going to be hung. And to give the life of others just to save your own when you are in the wrong is just really a terrible thing to do. And for these Puritans, it's even harder to believe. So that that wraps up the Crucible analysis. Hope you enjoyed.